Titans fans, hello and welcome back to the Two-Tone Crew. This is John Boy, and we are here with you tonight for a very, very special episode 154 of the Two-Tone Crew, the first edition. And before we hit record, I just had to go back and look. Our first ever episode was on November 2nd, 2011. It was actually in the middle of a season. So that means we've been doing this podcast for more than 6 years, and we finally have a playoff show to talk about. Jamal, it's been a long time coming. Did we lose him?
Well, you did for a minute, and I don't know what happened there because we've been having such a great conversation leading up to this. But I'm here. I'm here just about as effectively as the Titans are in the playoffs. So it only makes sense.
You could have totally played that off as your internet again.
Yes, only this time instead I am, I'm still supposed to be working. Decided I'd step out for this special occasion of the playoffs. So I'm in a food court, and I'm all across the street from where I work. It's an abandoned food court, which is not very different from during the day. This mall is failing, and it's mostly filled with homeless people. So if I get shanked during the episode, tell my wife I love her.
Oh, man. And I'm sure Scotty would have a little bit to add to that if that was to actually happen. Scotty, welcome.
I shall find out. We don't have to tell her.
All right, guys. So, like I said, episode 154. Maybe this is your first time tuning in. Who knows? Maybe you only started looking for Titans podcasts once they made the playoffs. If so, boy, do we have a show for you. Welcome to the podcast. I think I said this in the beginning, but if not, just to repeat, we're the official podcast of TitansReport.com. And normally this would be the past 6 seasons that we've done this. This would be a season wrap-up show. But this time, it's not. So there will definitely be another episode. We were talking about that before we hit record tonight. Regardless of what happens this weekend in Kansas City, we will be doing another episode, especially, even more so, if there are any coaching changes, whether it be coordinator or head coaching changes, or when we hear word on Malarkey's fate, either way. But first things first, guys. The Titans are in the playoffs for the first time in nearly a decade, and I can't help but noticing most fans just don't seem all that excited. It's like the Bills fans I see on Twitter, on Reddit. I mean, they're just flipping out. They're totally ecstatic for this first time in quite even longer than the Titans drought for the Bills that they have made it. And those fans seem thrilled, and everywhere I look, most of the Titans fans are just kind of meh. And why is that, Jamal? Why do you think that is?
Well, a couple of reasons. One is the performance on the field, even in clinching the playoffs with a win over a division rival. Even in that game, it was almost more disappointing than exciting just because of the way the offense fared. And then number two, I mean, I think they're kidding themselves, but I think a lot of people still hope for Malarkey to be fired, and they feel like, I mean, there were fans, I think we talked about it last episode.
Yeah.
The fans who wanted us to lose that game just to hasten his departure. And I just feel like, they set themselves up to be disappointed with a win, which is just unfortunate. I mean, I'm not super excited, but I'm excited at the same time. I mean, you don't get to root for the playoffs much with this franchise, so.
Yeah, it looked
nice.
like there was a moment before tonight when we were trying to organize the show where it looked like you might not be able to make it. And I just said, no, we'll reschedule. You got to make it, because who knows when we'll get to do this again for a playoff show. Hopefully again next year, hopefully again next week. But you never know with this team, like you said. So, Scotty, I'll tweak the question a bit for you as somebody who's followed this franchise for longer than either of us. What is your personal feeling on this playoff appearance? I mean, how are you feeling about it?
Well, I'm glad they made it. I wanted to make the playoffs. I was not one of the ones rooting for them to lose. But at the same time, they really have no chance of making the Super Bowl, which is the ultimate goal, in my opinion. So it's almost like, hopefully they can just win the Chiefs game, and then, but it's elimination. Anything can happen. They can win. So I'll be rooting for them.
Yep.
But I have very low expectations.
I think that's a major part of it. I mean, we talked all season, and Jamal, I think you even started a thread over on Titans Report when it looked like we were a lock for the playoffs. You started a thread, something to the effect of, if we go on and make it, can we make a run? And basically everybody was like, well, we haven't really peaked yet. And I guess the Titans never really peaked.
Still waiting.
Yeah. So it's like to get where we ultimately want to go, like you said, Scotty, the Super Bowl, we have yet to see that caliber play from them across the board in a game. We've seen small spurts of it within games, but never anything like what we saw last season in the middle of the year when we just, destroyed the Packers and put up an outstanding offensive performance. We haven't seen anything like that. So, I mean, I think it certainly does dampen the mood a bit. And I know a lot of people are probably frustrated out there listening, but we try to keep it as realistic as possible. I mean, I think all three of us are clearly very happy to be in the playoffs. We talked about it last week, how all three of us agreed it's crazy to root for a loss, regardless of how you feel about this coaching staff. And like you said, Scotty, anything can happen. I mean, we've seen it before. We've seen crazy, fluky things happen in the playoffs. But I mean, let's okay. I guess let's talk about the Jags game first, and then we'll work our way into the Chiefs game, because it certainly looked like for a while we were going to be playing the Jags in back-to-back weeks. We know that didn't happen. But this Jags game I actually went to the game. I told you guys last week I was thinking about it. I actually did follow through and go. Wasn't quite as cold as I was expecting. I mean, I think it was just I was so prepared. I had multiple layers and hot hands ready to go. So it didn't get too bad. But it's so funny to actually watch the game in person and then come back and read through all the message board and all the social media reaction throughout the game, because I wasn't able to really follow much of that as the game was going on. And
so what was your experience at the game then?
Yeah. So to me, it just felt like kind of exactly what I would have expected. It felt like a grinded out, almost a playoff type game, where clearly the idea, the plan with that game was to run the ball and to limit passing as much as possible for the Titans, knowing how the Jags defend the pass. And it was clearly to force Bortles into making mistakes, which they did earlier in the season, and they did that again. So, and there was definitely frustration. There was times you could hear everybody around you when they had the fumble returned. Everybody was saying, "Well, here they go. They're blowing it. They're gonna lose this one." But yeah, I was shocked at how negative the responses were on the board. I guess because it was on Twitter and stuff. I guess because it wasn't really a shock to me what we saw. And if you're looking for some positives, the defense totally dominated this game along with the special teams. I mean, just completely dominated the game. They only gave up 3 points, which against any team, that's incredible. And Bortles, everybody had been talking about, oh, here he is coming along. And I mean, I'd posted stats. There were all kinds of stats going around about how he had turned it around and was having a great season. And then the Titans just made him look like the guy that we've known all along. So it was a great defensive performance overall. Special teams was great. Special teams was great. And then the offense was just more of what we've come to expect, I felt. So I wasn't as down on it seeing it live. And of course I was happy to be in the playoffs was my overall experience.
Honestly,
how full was the stadium, like on a regular basis?
Yeah, so we'll jump back to Scotty, what you're about to say there. It was when I first got there, I was posting in the thread because I was like, oh man, this is bad, because there was hardly anybody in concessions, hardly any traffic. The lower area, I would say, was about 95% full. It was almost completely full. The middle red area, probably 75% full. And then the upper area, I would guess somewhere about 60% full. And a lot of people who have been to the Titans and know this, but like kind of the red from the middle red area on down, all those people can kind of go into an enclosed area. at any time for concessions, for restrooms, all that. So I honestly, it was better than I expected, given the New Year's Eve factor, given the cold factor. They said it was the coldest game ever at Nissan Stadium, which I found that hard to believe, but that's what I've seen reported multiple times. So yeah, it was better than I expected. But yeah, Scotty, throw it back to you. What were you about to say there? Honestly,
I think what's funny is if they hadn't have had the mishap with Henry and the return touchdown by the Jags, I think the entire outlook of the game would, the perception of how the game went, it would have been 15-3 or 18-3 final. And I think the Titans would be getting a lot more love for the way they dominated the Jaguars. And
I think that's exactly it. I mean, that it wasn't even a game. I mean, it was until that happened. And on that drive, it looked like here the Titans, they're about to at least get 3 again, because I mean, they were playing it pretty conservative the whole game, but playing it pretty safe there. And it wasn't even that the Jags made a great play. It was totally unforced.
If they would have lost the game after that, there's not a doubt in my mind that Malarkey would have been fired.
I was thinking the same thing.
I mean, the owner would have been just as, that's the kind of just gut-wrenching play that just disgusts you. And I think Malarkey would have definitely paid the price.
Yeah, I feel like I'm talking too much. You got anything to add, Jamal, before I jump back in?
Yeah, I don't know. I was pretty disappointed the whole game. My mood during games is really based on how's the offense doing, because that's like so obnoxious to me how bad they are this year. Yeah. And Mariota is such a concern now. And I mean, what do they have? I'm on a phone in a mall, so I don't have stats in front of me. But then they have like 3 scoring drives that were like 10 yards, 5 yards, 20 yards. Like it was.
Oh, I mean, yeah, the defense put them in great spots just about every time,
and special teams
couldn't do anything. Yeah,
and the long scoring drive was kind of a fluky screen pass too. It's not like they put together some drive.
Right.
Yeah. So here you go, Jamal. The play Scotty was talking about, the touchdown, that was 7 plays, 82 yards. So 66 was one play. This is crazy. The first field goal drive, 4 plays for 5 yards. The next field goal drive, 4 plays for 8 yards. Then in the third quarter, this big drive here, 8 plays for 23 yards, 38-yard field goals, what that ended in.
Yeah, so my impression of the game was still trash, despite the fact that the defense was playing so well. And I mean, it kind of gets back to all the narratives. The defense can play well when you're playing against Blake Bortles.
Right.
The offense sucks. And I saw more of that this game.
It is important to remember that the offense sucks, and it sucked against bad teams, but the Jaguars do have a pretty awesome defense.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Especially against the pass.
Well, were you guys surprised the Jags?
Darius, even the run.
Were you guys surprised the Jags actually played all their starters all game? Like, what were they doing? I don't get that.
I told John before we started recording that I think it's stupid, because if you lose like they did, you look stupid and you lose confidence or whatever. And if you win, so what? It doesn't carry over. And you could lose players. I mean, you could lose key players. So
I mean, they're like
stupid.
Especially late in the game, like they never pulled their starters. They had guys playing the whole game. It was crazy.
They were trying to win, no doubt about it.
Yeah, there was talk. I happened to be in the restroom right before half when they were the Malarkey challenge, the second challenge, the one that he actually won, but it was kind of like, is it really worth it? And what Mike Keith was saying is that I can't remember how he connected it, but basically, you don't know if the Jags, maybe if you get this, if you score here or something, then the Jags are going to take out their starters coming out of the locker room, which I still don't know why that would make the challenge any more valid. But there was a lot of talk,
The too many men on the field?
Yeah, that one.
I mean, they were pinned inside like the 3-yard line, and that flipped like 20-something yards of field position. I actually thought that was a good challenge.
But the whole second half, you have nothing.
What do you mean? You have nothing as far as a challenge?
As far as a challenge, yeah. Like, is 20 yards really worth it?
Well, in a
in a
defensive
close game.
I think being pinned.
When you're backed up on
Yeah,
the 5 against that team,
I do.
it's close.
Yeah, I do think it's worth it. Yeah, exactly.
It's a no-brainer if you hadn't used the first challenge, but the first challenge, that one, it definitely made me
He got suckered.
question it
He got
more.
suckered in the first one because they rushed up to the line. Like, we're going to run a play,
Yeah.
and here's what he should have done. He should have called a timeout, because if you lose the challenge, you're going to lose the timeout anyway.
Right.
Then take
Just
the
giving them-
timeout and watch it a few times, get a better idea of whether or not you want to challenge it, and then challenge it. Or don't challenge it. Then you've only lost a timeout. A timeout's not as valuable as the challenge.
Yeah.
The challenge and the timeout. Yeah. This is what it is.
Yeah, so offensively, we got our first look at a full-time Derrick Henry. Everybody said he just needs lots of carries. Well, that didn't pan out. The biggest play of the game, of course, with the passing score, 1 catch, 66 yards. Great setup on the play. It was a good call for that moment, and he made a great play on it, of course. But other than that, I mean, the offense was, like you guys were saying, pretty disappointing overall. I mean, Henry had 28 carries for 51 yards, so that's an average of 1.8. I'll say this right off. I mean, I thought the run blocking was terrible. I thought he missed a lot of holes too. I mean, we've seen him bounce it back and forth so many times now. He's got to cut that out if he's going to stay in this league for long. But I mean, there were multiple times when he was just getting hit almost immediately. If you're looking for a bright spot on offense, it's got to be Mariota finally getting it going on actual scrambles, not so much designed run plays, but actually breaking the pocket and scrambling. And I know we're kind of grasping at whatever we can here, but that was easily the best he's looked in terms of scrambling. I saw something like they converted like something like 3 first downs in this game, and it was all him running every time, which is crazy on third downs, that is. So, but yeah, and arguably the play of the game to seal it, that, you know, everybody's talked about multiple times this week, was where he broke away and had the stiff arm and picked up the first down. So if you're looking for positives, I mean, it seems like they're knowing they have to pull out all the stops at this point. Everybody's been questioning, is he healthy or is he not? Maybe he's not fully healthy, but he's clearly healthy enough to scramble and make plays. And as we're going to talk about here in a bit, I think they're going to need more of that if they're going to have a shot at Kansas City. But yeah, I mean, he was leading rusher with 10 carries for 60 yards. So,
oh boy, isn't that exciting?
That's
Derrick Henry finally gets
it.
a shot and nothing.
Yeah, I apologize for saying that Murray should be benched for Henry. I was wrong. We see why they're dragging Murray's limp, dead body out of.
I mean, they have to have, somebody has to be able to put something out there. Like Fluellen has to be able to do something. Bring out the midget. I don't care who it is.
I would have rather seen Fluellen honestly get some carries.
If as a coaching staff you're watching the game film and Henry just doesn't know what he's doing, won't follow his reads, and can't take a handoff correctly. I mean, I don't even think the botched handoff was the only play where it looked like he was not approaching correctly. So
there was a Mariota run where I think he was trying to hand off to Henry, and Henry ran the wrong way, and Mariota, they do a lot of that stuff anyway, but I'm pretty sure that the way Mariota looked, that it was a busted play that he was supposed to hand off to. I'll tell you something else too. Yeah. Last week, the big Fluellens lined up outside deal. A few plays before that, when I was watching the game again, I noticed that Mariota was having to tell Henry, no, not over there. You're supposed to line up over here. Mm. And I actually wonder if that didn't have something to do with why they put Fluellen in the game.
That's unfortunate when you consider that he's a second-year guy, and he's been playing behind Murray. He's been in this offense for 2 years now. Well, basically 2 full years now that Week 17's gone. You're starting to see why they've been so hesitant to go to him, I think. And I think he's better than what he showed, but yeah, there's too many miscues like that, too many little things that can turn out to be very big things when you run into your quarterback and make him fumble the ball. But yeah, this is kind of a topic for the season wrap up, but I think running back is quickly vaulting up the list of offseason needs.
Well, I'll go back.
Sure.
I'll go back even further to this past offseason. Let's remember when they traded for Murray. I mean, they kind of got so lucky that he just happened to be like an MVP type runner the first half of the season. When they got him, everybody's like, okay, might as well take a chance on the guy. You know, he's got too many carries. And I think the fact that he was so good last year, everybody just thought Robinson, Malarkey, us, oh, okay, they're good at running back. They've got Henry,
right?
You know, and honestly, it was a huge need. And it's one of the reasons the offense has been bad. They can't run the ball.
Oh yeah, for sure. And didn't they? I'm pretty sure if you go back and look at, we usually keep track of all the draft visits. I'm pretty sure they met with several running backs. I know they met with Kamara, and there were several other guys. Oh, McCaffrey, that was the other one.
He was the one where I was like, he is such a luxury, but I would have taken him in a heartbeat.
They definitely, I can't remember who's the little third down scat guy they activated last week. I can't remember his name.
Muhammad.
Yeah, they were clearly looking for, a guy like him, McCaffrey.
Mm-hmm.
So they still weren't looking for a first down guy like Murray and Henry. So they still wouldn't have that.
As far as the passing game goes in this one, I mean, I thought it was clearly to play it safe and try and limit the Jags as much as possible. They didn't. I don't know that Mariota really tested them too much, and he had some drops. He had some couple miscues, but overall it was pretty much, 66 yards off that one play, and he only had 134 total. So, there was basically nothing in the passing game. It was almost like that game last year against the Chiefs, I think it was. Maybe the Broncos too.
Yeah, I think definitely the way the game flow went when they got up, a lot of the plays they run are clearly, let's get out of here, let's punt, let's play defense, rather than take a chance at turning the ball over against the Jaguars. So, and that helps the explanation of why the offense is so bad to a degree. But it's bad anyway, don't get me wrong, but they definitely they definitely play conservative in a lot of these games just to play defense and special teams.
Yeah. Because it was pretty different from what they'd done against the Cardinals and 49ers. I don't think we saw any hurry up at all. I don't think we saw any no huddle at all. And it was, very clearly a safe game plan. Be interesting to see if that changes this week. So let's go ahead and transition into previewing the wild card round against the Chiefs. When I mentioned earlier, it looked like everything was pointing to another matchup with the Jags. And I think everybody was pretty much expecting that. And then the Bengals somehow hold out the victory over the Ravens. Ravens lose out on the playoffs. Buffalo gets in. Now they go to Jacksonville, and the Titans are instead going to Kansas City. I like the matchup against the Jags. I think we're actually hitting the point where we were kind of starting to get in their heads. I think they're getting pretty frustrated playing the Titans. But now to Kansas City, which is notoriously a very difficult place to play. They're well rested. They didn't play their top guys this past week, and it's a veteran team as far as coaching goes, as far as players go. Alex Smith's been there before. Now they haven't always fared well in the playoffs, but it's a team that I don't love the matchup. I'll say that to start us off.
I think it's the worst matchup the Titans could have had. I would rather play the Steelers and possibly even New England versus the Chiefs.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Yes. Also, John said last week, the Jaguar game was like a playoff game. It really was because they had to win to go.
Yeah.
So, obviously this is getting ahead, but they have to win at Jacksonville, at Kansas City, at Pittsburgh, at New England. That's their road to the Super Bowl.
Right. All difficult places to play.
But the Chiefs, the Titans play man coverage. The Chiefs have feasted on man coverage this year. The Chiefs haven't allowed over 20 points going all the way back to the middle of last year.
Well, that's fine. We never scored that much anyway.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The Titans hadn't scored over 24 points since week 6. So,
oh my goodness,
I don't think they can.
You got to be kidding me. That is bad.
The first Colt game when Mariota couldn't move and he did all the play action passing.
Oh my
that's
gosh.
That's the last time they scored over 24 points. So,
and some of that was even like that late garbage touchdown by Henry, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
No, I don't think they scored over 24 in those games.
No, in that Colts game.
Or was that the second Colts game?
That was the second Colts game.
That was the second one? Wow.
Yeah.
All those victories over the Colts are running together for me now.
And Alex Smith, I posted the stats and said the stats. Every non-backup type scrub quarterback has just feasted on the defense. And Alex
I will
Smith,
say about that, though, I saw a stat, and who knows how it'll end up working out, but I think Alex Smith is one of the worst quarterbacks against the blitz this year. So
yeah,
we'll probably turn that around.
Hey, and he has a history of having poor playoff games too. He has not done well in the play. He had that one game as a 49er against the Saints. Y'all remember that shootout they had?
Oh yeah.
I
was looking at his playoff stats earlier today too.
That was actually a game where Greg Williams said, we got to kill the head, and they ended up getting in trouble. That was actually the game.
Oh,
and it was
right.
It was like 40 something. And
I thought kill the head was about Brett Favre.
Oh yeah, you're right. Well, that was part of it too, but I think they actually got suspended for the talk in the 49ers game because the big joke was the 49ers never even punted in that game.
Well, his playoff stats they're better than I thought. So yeah, here's his career. He's played in 6 career playoff games, 4 with Kansas City, 2 with San Francisco. So just overall in the playoffs, he's got 12 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, 94.5 rating. He's been sacked 14 times. He's hasn't done all that much rushing in the playoffs, 31 yards total, 1 touchdown. But yeah, so he started off his first 3 appearances in the playoffs, 3 touchdowns, 0 picks, 2 touchdowns, 0 picks, 4 touchdowns, 0 picks. And then the past couple, he's not been as great. He had in 2015, they actually won a game in 2015. So he had 1 touchdown, 1 interception. That was when they blew out Houston 30-0 in 2015. Then they played New England, lost 27-20, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Then last year against Pittsburgh, they lost 18-16. He had 1 touchdown, 1 interception, only 172 yards. But yeah, so this game, a lot of it's going to depend on Alex Smith, I think, in which Alex Smith shows up, because as we've talked about all season long, the Titans defense can make you look really bad if you're not a good quarterback. But if you're a decent quarterback, then you got a pretty good shot of doing pretty well against the defense. And Smith has had a really, really good season this year. If you look at his numbers from the season, he's had a really good year.
This is anecdotal because I didn't have time to dig into it, but I'm pretty sure, just having owned Kareem Hunt in a couple of fantasy football leagues this year, that their success is highly connected to Kareem Hunt's success and how much they're giving him the ball. I know mid-season, when the Chiefs were starting to look completely terrible, was when they were going away from him, passing a lot. I'm interested to see, with us being a good defensive team against the run, does that change anything for?
Yeah, so let's get into that a little bit. First, to recap their schedule, this is how wild their season has been.
This game actually going to come out to do.
Yeah, they started out 5-0 with wins over the Patriots. They destroyed them week 1. They beat the Eagles week 2. They beat the Chargers week 3. They beat the Redskins. They beat the the Texans when they were playing Deshaun Watson, 42-34. They beat them. And then they just kind of got awful in the middle of the season. They lost a close one to Pittsburgh, lost to the Raiders by 1. Then they beat the Broncos in the middle of that. Then they lose to the Cowboys. They lose to the Giants. They lose to the Bills. And they lose to the Jets. 4 in a row against, I think you would say they're easily better, more talented than all 4 of those teams. Lost to all 4 of them. And then they go on a 4-game winning streak to end their season. And they had a couple of changes throughout the season. Jamal was talking about Kareem Hunt. I know Andy Reid stopped calling plays at some point during that losing streak. I think that it might have coincided perfectly with when they won a game again. I'm not 100% sure on that, but yeah. Then when it comes to Kareem Hunt's stats here, so everybody knows how he started off the year. Their first loss. So he starts the year 148, 81, 172, 101, 107. Then Pittsburgh holds him to 9 carries, 21 yards. They lose that game. Then he had 87 against Oakland. That was a loss. So 30. Here's just his numbers and losses: 37, 73, 17, 40. And then an explosion for 116. That's when they beat Oakland. 155, they beat the Chargers. 91, they beat Miami. And then week 17, he had 1 carry for 35 yards and a touchdown.
Right. So it seems to me like
you're right on that.
Him. Yeah.
Although
so if we can shut him down,
I think they'll shut him down anyway. They stopped the run fine. He led the league in rushing, by the way.
Yeah.
Hey, what's interesting is when the Chiefs lost 6 of 7, the same time the Titans won 6 of 7. The Chiefs were also left for dead at that point. No one thought that they were going to. Everyone thought the Chargers would win the division, and they were left for dead.
That's right. The Chargers were the hot team, and then the Chiefs kind of found their way again. I haven't really watched them as closely towards the end of the year, so I don't know if you could say they're playing better than they were at the start of the season. Some fans I was reading comments from, Chiefs fans, so take it with a grain of salt, but they were saying they're actually playing better now than they were at the beginning. I find that hard to believe, but that's at least what I had read. So it's been a crazy season for them, and they obviously found out they were in the playoffs week 16 because they were able to rest their guys in the final week. But it was not a sure thing for a while. I mean, they were in a bad place there for a while. So it's not a completely unwinnable game.
Why people think they're playing better is their defense really got a lot better later in the season. Like if you're looking at the game,
a lot better at home too, right?
Actually at home, but yeah, just period though. They held the Giants to 12.
But Bills lost that one.
yeah, but I'm just talking about their defense. They held the Bills to 16. They held the Raiders to 15, the Chargers to 13, the Dolphins to 13. So, I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't think the Titans are going to be scoring a lot more than that.
Depends on how many trick plays we whip out here. I haven't seen quite as many trick plays in weeks. If Mariota's healthy, let's get back to that heavy RPO offense. Get into that week 2, week 3 offense.
I think they're going to run him a lot.
Put up 40. Yeah. I mean, if we're going to win this game, either the defense has to completely shut them down, which seems unlikely, or the offense has to play significantly better than they've played basically all year, which also seems unlikely. So I mean, if you're a betting man, you don't bet on Titans here.
I couldn't tell if you're being sarcastic about the RPOs and stuff, but I think that is what they have to do.
I think that they will, and if he's healthy, I mean, when they were doing that offense, we were talking about how, it's not necessarily what you want your quarterback's best thing to be, but he is very athletic. He's great at the timing of, when he's making his decision, and it's hard on defenses.
They designed that stuff.
We either haven't been able to or haven't done it. Yeah,
I think the hamstring injury shut all that down, and they were manufacturing offense with the RPOs, and they were doing passes off that and all that kind of stuff because they couldn't run the ball and they can't pass it. So That's really all they had.
They had touchdowns to Taywan and Jonnu Smith and all sorts of stuff that was basically all play design. It was not like great individual effort or anything. It was just the defense got completely tricked.
Do y'all realize a third of Mariota's touchdown passes were thrown behind the line of scrimmage?
I do know that he had 13 touchdown passes compared to 26 last year. And that, to me, is a bigger problem than the number of interceptions he threw. You can't score so little as an offense and be successful. And like interceptions are, he's going to learn from those, whatever. That's a growth thing. Having no touchdowns, that's just scary.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt about it. The passing game, whoever you want to blame, the passing game is pitiful. I know some. I know some people.
The running game isn't good either.
I think it's funny the different. Some people say Mariota played good. Mariota is not playing good. I don't care what anyone says. He did not play good against the Jaguars. Why? Who's to blame or whatever? Debate that all day long. But do not tell me he's playing good, because he's not.
Do you think he played poorly against the Jags?
Absolutely.
Or do you just think he didn't play well?
No, I think
those are two different things.
I think he played poorly.
Oh, interesting. I didn't walk away feeling like that.
I didn't feel that either.
Well, I think you see the way the game ended, and he ran the ball and everything. But there was a stretch. I mean, people were talking about it in the game thread and stuff. There was a stretch where he dropped back to pass and either pump faked and didn't throw it, or broke out of the pocket or something. And I mean, it was just horrible. It was the worst pocket, the worst playing in the pocket that you can have. And it was just terrible. I mean, Jaguars got a good defense and everything, but even the announcers were like, he just needs to throw the ball. And the numbers, those are the things that are not on the stats. And, he, to his credit, later in the game, he ran.
Yeah.
And made some plays. But as far as passing, the passing, and did y'all hear Greg Cosell talk about the passing game against the Jaguars?
I saw some
any
comments,
media basically this
tweets.
year or week.
Yeah. He actually said Davis was open on a post for a touchdown, a deep play, and he said Mario didn't throw it. He said he was off timing. I mean, he was pretty critical of him in the game after he watched it.
I mean, we've talked about him being afraid to make mistakes. I think you're especially afraid against this defense because of their tendency to turn a mistake into 6, not just intercept you, but actually take it the other way. So, I mean, he's been struggling throughout the year, but if you're looking for anything to kind of give him the benefit of the doubt, it's the fact that if there's a defense you want to be absolutely safe against, it's got to be the Jags of all teams. And then, like you said, later in the game, he started actually scrambling and making something out of it instead of just taking sacks and stuff.
Yeah, that was the best. That's the best he's ran. I don't know if all year, but it's the best he's ran on non-designed runs.
Right, exactly, for sure. All right, so going into this week, it doesn't sound like any of us would predict a win. I think somebody called us out. We actually forgot to do a pick last week. So for our picks this week, I don't think any of us would predict the Titans win. I think we can win. But I think, like you were saying, Jamal, it would take either the defense doing to Smith what they've done to lesser quarterbacks, or it would take the offense elevating themselves to a place that at least consistently we just haven't seen yet this year. And playoff football is an entirely different animal. I mean, everybody knows that. Everybody talks about how it's important in the playoffs. You really start to see the running game increase in the playoffs, stopping the run and being able to run the football. Even teams like the Patriots, they've talked about in recent years how important it is to run. And if last year's Titans had made it, I think we'd be feeling a lot better. But this year's Titans, the way the offense has been, even the running game can't find its way.
I think the Titans have they're the biggest long shot as far as winning the Super Bowl out of the teams that are in the playoffs.
Yeah, I saw where somebody posted that.
I'd say they're probably a long shot of just winning this week.
Actually, more people were positive on them than I expected them to be, though, really.
Jeremiah and Brooks, I saw both thought they had a shot this week.
I think they're looking more at the Chiefs. The Chiefs have deficiencies. It's not like the Chiefs are some juggernaut, but I still don't think the Titans can beat them. I think the Chiefs will win by double digits.
How about you, Jamal? You going to put a score or
score
margin on
it? No. I think what I would just say is, yeah. I want to be positive and I can't. Like, the most positive thing I could say is odds on a win. It wouldn't be like 90-10. It would be more like 70-30, right? So I guess 30-70.
Odds on a Chiefs win.
Yeah, so 30-70 for odds on a Titans win. But it's not hopeless. The big thing for me is you have to see something that we haven't really done this year. You have to see a different type of performance because we have not put together even, I would say, almost a single full game. You know, we've had the half that was so dominant the score got crazy against the Jags, right? Had our offense played pretty well from most. This was getting shredded by Russell Wilson, and it got hidden by the fact that anyway. So I mean, like that's the thing that gets me is when you're hoping your team is going to do something they haven't done. Well, then your odds have to be low. But it's still, I still feel the same way I've felt for a long time. You've got more players than last year. You should be able to, not that we ever do, but you should be able to put it to. So
it started cutting out just a little bit. Did you say we've got better players this year than last year?
Yeah. They're not playing better, but they are, and they're more experienced in the system. And so, like, we should be able to do it, but we haven't. So I can't predict it.
I don't think they have better players. They have players that they signed or drafted that are bigger names, but they're not better.
Well, honestly, the biggest one is Murray regressing compared to what he was last year. Because
the second half last year, though,
offensively, it's pretty much the same guys, except for you take out Kendall Wright and you plug in Davis, right?
I'm sorry, but Tajay Sharp overall was better last year than
Sharp, that's right.
Than Corey Davis is this year.
Yeah, but so I mean, you've got Eric Decker is probably more than Tajay Sharp because he's been there all year, and then Corey Davis is probably more of Kendall Wright because they've been in and out of the lineup.
Well, they didn't have.
I'd say that's pretty much a wash.
They didn't have a third receiver the first half of the season, you know, except for Taylor. I mean, who's clearly not ready to play. And
that's another off-season discussion.
They were starting Andre Johnson last year for a number of games.
About 4 games.
Not worse personnel-wise. I can't buy that.
Jonnu Smith is a way worse inline blocking tight end than Fasano is. Murray's worse.
That is the one position I can get down on.
I think Ben Jones is definitely playing. Ben Jones is definitely playing hurt. He's not nearly as good as he was last year. And Mariota has been injured for a large chunk of the season. He's definitely not better than last year.
Yeah.
That's where you're talking about playing better versus it actually is better.
Who's better?
I don't think that's easy.
Who's better, though? Who did you say was better?
I would say that you have the same offensive line in their second year in the system. They're better. They're not playing better, but they're better. They have more experience in the same system. Mariota is another year more matured. He is a better prospect this year than last year.
Yeah, but you said they
Eric
had better,
Decker is better than. Right. I mean, I'm going through the players are mostly the same, only with more experience.
Or washed up.
Right.
I don't think Murray has more experience. I guess technically he does, but it's not good experience.
No, but he was washed up for half the year last year when we were still going on a.
He wasn't this bad. He was not this. He wasn't this bad.
He was terrible. And the offense, by the way, at the end of the year, when we said Denver and KC see are good defenses, but the offense was pretty trash. And then we went to Jacksonville, and Mariota got hurt.
But they were bad in that game.
Yeah,
before
they were.
Got hurt.
They were bad. Yeah, they were.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just think I hear a lot of people say, well, they added all this talent. They didn't add all this talent. They drafted a receiver 5. They drafted Jonnu Smith, but it's not upgrades yet. I mean, that's the kind of thing that'll be an upgrade down the road. It's not an upgrade right now and hasn't been this year.
I think their wide receivers are upgraded over last year, but this is totally a tangent that's not worth getting into anymore.
Well, on paper, but Corey Davis missed almost the whole season. And that's...
Yeah, but you've got Eric Decker is better than Tajay Sharp was early in the year.
Are you sure about that?
I'm positive about that, yes.
I don't think the stats say that.
We'd have to look at it. It'd be an interesting comparison.
Especially
considering the offense has done almost nothing. I bet Eric Decker's stats are about Jay Sharp's were last year.
What do you have, about 47?
Decker certainly let him down this past game.
Yeah, boy, he looked good that game.
You checking Decker? I'll check Sharp.
Yeah, I'm looking up Decker.
Yeah, so Sharp played he played in 16 games, 522 yards.
How many catches?
2 touchdowns.
How many catches did he have?
41 catches.
It's pretty close. Decker had 54 catches, 560 yards, and 1 touchdown.
There you go.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty close.
I'm basically the same guy.
Their snaps are pretty. I bet their percent of the offense, because so much last year has been like our every down guy. So I think those are pretty much a swap. And then you don't have Andre Johnson, Rashard Matthews all year this year. I just think the biggest problem with the Titans offense this year is not worse talent.
We're losing you.
It's just as well. It would be.
Right when he was getting to the main part of his point.
Well, he said he doesn't think the offense's problem is the talent is worse.
Good point, and it's gone. Lost.
I actually do think that
it's the performance is worse, and I think it's hard to distinguish those.
I think the players, like in Murray's case, and Mariota coming off the broken leg, and they haven't practiced together all year. The core offensive guys have missed practice off and on all year. Yeah. Murray missed a lot of practice. Mariota missed a lot of practice. Davis missed almost the whole season. Even Matthews, did he miss 1 or 2 games?
This year, I know he for sure missed 1. Check it real quick here.
They were much more healthy last year.
It's almost impossible to be more healthy than they were last year.
He missed 2 games. He played in 14 games this year, Matthews.
And he missed games right when Davis started coming back. So they really never had a chance to get all out there at the same time. Which, I still personally think Mariota was a bigger problem, which, he kind of struggled all season, but I don't know if that's the broken leg. I don't know what the problem is. But the talent was not vastly upgraded any way you cut it.
Maybe it should have been, but it didn't pan out that way.
Yeah, on paper it was. It looked like it was going to be, but it just never happened.
Yeah. All right, so before we wrap up, I know a lot of people probably want us to talk about the potential of a coaching change because we've heard a little back and forth on this before the game. I guess it was after we recorded last week, right? That the report came out that Mularkey, I think it was Ian Rappaport, said that Mularkey was in danger if he lost this game, and even possibly if he won the game and made the playoffs and went 1 and done, that there's a chance the Titans could move on. It seemed like the day after they won, Peter King and his Monday morning quarterback actually said that Mularkey had saved his job there. But I believe Ian Rappaport and Jason Lockenfora and maybe a few others are still saying that even with a loss here, that the Titans could look to replace Mularkey. So before we wrap up, let's just get your all's thoughts on that, because I personally, we were talking about this a little bit before the show, and we said we should save it. I think he's safe, and you guys I think disagree, but I think he's safe. And I made a post this week, maybe my most disliked. Actually, I'm sure it's my most disliked post ever on TitansReport.com that said Mularkey deserves a third year, and I'm not going to go into all of it here, but basically just laying out what he has accomplished from a perspective of wins, of culture change, all these things. Not even saying that I personally think he should be back, but saying that if you weigh all these things, I think he deserves that third year. Lots of people didn't like that. But so yeah, I mean, what are you guys thinking here? Because last week I think we were all pretty much in agreement that we didn't think he was coaching for his job. But I think, Scotty, you pointed out that it really shouldn't matter win or loss, that it's more about how they feel about if he's really the cause of Mariota's regression or not.
That's what I was going to say. You never actually said that the report said the reason he was going to get fired. Because
right. Yeah.
That was a key point in all the reports. And, hey, if they get together, Robinson, whoever decides that he's the reason Mariota hasn't, then, hey, fire him. I'm on board, because if you don't get Mariota right, nothing else matters anyway. I mean, you basically have to start over.
Yep.
And his contract's extension's coming up pretty soon, so you got to find out. But, I mean, my own personal opinion is give him the third year, upgrade the running back positions, and see if he can make it work. But as far as if they were going to fire him because Mariota didn't progress, I don't know what winning a playoff game or getting into the playoffs, how that really changes that narrative. If he didn't get Mariota where he should be, who cares if you made the playoffs beating a bunch of bad teams while he played bad?
Right. I mean, my thoughts last week, and still are, is that I just can't see Amy Adams Strunk hiring Mike Mularkey despite knowing that fans were not going to get behind it, and then seeing him go 9-7, and then go 9-7, make the playoffs, and have her feel like, okay, you're fired. Like, that doesn't align for anything that makes sense. But I think the concerns for Mariota, and I mean, I posted about it after the Pittsburgh loss. It's like the regression is scary. And then I think there's probably some truth to the whole J-Rob wants one of the guys from New England thing.
I do too.
I feel like so Amy, I feel like wouldn't lean towards it. J-Rob, I think probably does, and now is the chance. I think McDaniels, if that's his guy, he's taking a job this year.
He has to go now. Yep.
And so it kind of depends on how much trust does she really put in J-Rob. I think that's one of the big factors that's going to come into this, that's changing my opinion a little bit on the likelihood of him getting fired. I still lean towards I don't think it's happening.
That's what I was going to say, Jamal, is the big unknown this time is how much influence has J-Rob managed to gain over these past 2 years? How much of her trust does he have? Because when he first came in, it was kind of like, I mean, you're taking Mularkey. He's your coach. And not a lot of us liked the way that went down, but that's how it was. Now, 2 years have passed. She's gotten to know Mularkey and J-Rob a little bit better. Like you said, if he has enough influence now and he's looking out there and saying, look, I can get one of these guys that I believe in and know personally and have worked with, then yeah, I mean, that increases the chances of it happening. Go ahead, Scotty.
To counter what Jamal said about, they went 9-7, they made the playoffs, it would be hard to see her firing him. I'll say this. She told Wisenhunt, protect Mariota, and he didn't. And despite the fact everyone said he'd make it out, he was fired the next week.
Yeah.
So if she would fire him over that quickly, I could see her firing Mariota if she thought he wasn't, doing Mariota right.
Malarkey.
Yeah. And
That'd be funny if he fired Mariota.
that's a few years away still if he keeps playing this way. And hey, back to Robinson. I've got no problem if he's got the power to. I trust him more than I trust anybody else in the front office to determine, if it's being done right and if they need a head coaching change or philosophy change. Who else are they going to trust? I don't think Amy Adams Shrunk knows.
Yeah, I mean, look at what happened this offseason. After a single year, he got some big new title and promotion, which struck me as kind of odd. So I think he's got some power in that franchise, and it'll be interesting to see what happens here.
At the same time, he's got some of the blame with why they've not been as good this year too. Though because he was such a you come from Webster and Tommy Smith. He was such a breath of fresh air and made the big trade and everything, but a lot of the team building and stuff did not go as well as it should have.
Yeah. I'd have to really look at it to give a strong opinion on that, but I don't have a problem with the team building under him, but it might not be as strong as people give it credit for, or were giving it credit for after the draft.
Yeah, I mean, it's still too early to judge.
I was going to say it's to be determined.
Class. But right now,
do you guys get the sense like one of the big things it seems like that was a burr for Wisenhunt as a coach was personality? And doesn't McDaniels seem like the exact wrong personality?
I mean, we could do a whole podcast on how these coaches get picked and how they get fired. It's ridiculous. I mean, what is I posted this. If you didn't know their names or anything, there's no way anybody would pick McDaniels after what he's done.
I mean, I love talking about all the coaches stuff. I mean, it's fun to speculate and try to guess the next big name. But there's just so much that we can't know. We just can't know.
Right.
Being our position. It's like, I mean, Sean McVay, sure, a few people mentioned him, but nobody knew he would have this type of success this fast. And so it's hard. You have to know the ins and outs, which is why that if they actually made a change after back-to-back 9-7 seasons, back-to-back winning seasons, making the playoffs, and then they still felt strong enough to make a change, I almost admire them more for that, for being able to say, look, we believe in this much that we are sure this is the problem with the quarterback and we have to make it right. I would almost just appreciate that even more than them firing him if we had lost to the Jags. But so unlikely.
Look at the perception when Wisenhunt was hired. The media, the fans. They just got Bill Belichick. What they go 2-14 and 3-13 under him, and then
they only had one. Yeah, they only had one win with him that second year.
Second year.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Malarkey, worst hire ever. They're in the playoffs. And it's hard to, it was a disappointing season. They should have done better. But my God, we were picking 1 and 2 the 2 years before last year.
Mm-hmm.
It's still a vast upgrade to what we were watching the Titans get beat by 20 and 30 points every week.
That was exactly my point with that post about he deserves another year, because if you look at it in the historical context of where we were, I mean, yeah, Mariota's a huge part. Amy taking over is a huge part. J-Rob's a huge part. But like the fact that we're even, I mean, we now actually go into games. How many games do we predict them to win this year? Every week we were like, I think the Titans should win this. I think the Titans should win this.
Part of that's the fact that they had the weakest schedule in the NFL, though.
That's true, but I mean, they had from where they were at back in the the latter days of Munchak and Wiz. We never predicted
they're winning. Their record against winning teams under Malarkey is sky high, and even though there was injuries and stuff, everyone said he's got to win division games. They went 5-1 in the division.
That was my thought process. Like when you look at all those things, Malarkey has so many things going for him, and then the one glaring spot, arguably the most important spot, is the quarterback.
Some people
Everything
might even
else,
say the only spot that matters.
right?
I was going to say it's not arguable. There's no question about it.
Everything else is in Malarkey's favor. I mean, he's done almost everything else you would want to see out of a coach. But that, like you said, I mean, that's winning is number one. The way you win is with a good quarterback. And if you don't develop this guy, then like you said, Scotty, all of a sudden we're going to be drafting another guy and you reset all over again. So it's going to be interesting to see how things play out. I mean, if they win, do you guys see any scenario where he's gone? If they win this week?
Oh, no way.
Because
No way.
Okay, so as much as we want to talk about the regression of Mariota, at some point, winning in a playoffs does override how bad they've been all season.
No, I think it's winning plus just the progression win-wise. I mean, the biggest contrast in this whole thing is it's wins versus context. I mean, you see the team and they're playing and you hate what they're doing every week.
Is the winning sustainable?
Right.
Can this win sustain? No, it can't. Another thing hurting Malarkey is how good Mariota was last year on that stretch. Once everybody saw that for like 8 weeks, what's wrong with him, and
I've been meaning to go back and do it, but to like separate it into like the first 4 games, the middle 8 games, and the last 4 games, and to turn it into like the first and the last 4 versus the middle 8, and how big of a difference is it statistically?
He was Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers in the middle 8. He was that. I think he threw like 2 interceptions and 20-something of his touchdown passes came in those middle 8 games.
Well, he only had 26.
I know.
So I think that, yeah, there's something to be said for last year was 8 great games and then 4 games that were like, ugh. And now we've seen a lot more of, ugh.
Well, to be fair, at the end of last year, even though he did play worse, the game was like 0 degrees in Kansas City, and the Denver defense was a lot like the Jaguar defense this year. So, I mean, put it in context a little better.
I didn't give you guys much of a chance earlier to talk about it, but would you guys agree when I said that if last year's team was in the playoffs, you'd feel so much better?
No question.
Yeah, well, we were talking about it all at the end of the year. If we make the playoffs, we're dangerous.
If we just get in.
Everybody's going to fear us.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're in.
And now we're a running team that can't run, and we also can't pass. And you can pass on us whenever you want.
Man, people are going to hate us for this episode.
Well, but if they're realistic, they're gonna nod along.
Yep.
And just to be clear, I think Malarkey's going to stay. I was just saying that based on what their reasoning was reportedly, that it shouldn't matter if he wins it, if he made the playoffs or not.
Yeah, I think he's done enough at this point that he'll get by with sacrificing Robisky.
Did
y'all see the players after the game? I mean, they love him. There's no doubting that they love him.
They love winning. There were a number of people revolting the week before after 3 straight losses.
I never heard anyone revolt against Malarkey. I heard people saying, who said something bad about Malarkey?
About him personally? I don't know. That may be true. They didn't mention his name. But they were out
had
there
a lot
complaining
of
about the offense.
But
yeah, and so did
Taywan
Taylor.
Just as easily be Robisky they have a problem with.
Well,
yeah.
If you don't have a problem with Robisky at this point, kidding yourself.
Taylor was griping after that post pattern he ran a couple weeks ago.
Won't say he's a great player. I'm just saying there was some griping going on. There was a lot of I mean, there were articles being written about it on ESPN about the locker rooms becoming unsettled.
They said there were some players that were unhappy with the offense. I mean, that's right. That could easily be Derrick Henry. I want to play more, that kind of stuff,
Yeah. No, I think he stays, but I think there's smoke to the fire when it comes to John Robinson and Marcus Mariota. But I cannot see Amy hiring him despite his unpopularity, and then he goes 9-7, 9-7 in the playoffs and firing him. I just don't see it.
Yeah.
I think it's too easy to rationalize.
The NFL coaching career is a cruel, unfair profession, though. These guys get kept when they shouldn't. And
how is Marvin Lewis? How is Marvin Lewis still? He's worse than Hugh Jackson. I don't care what anyone says about 116. Marvin Lewis has had too many years.
Well, hey, they should have traded for him.
Oh, I know. I wish they would have. The Bengals don't care. They don't care. That's what it is. They don't care. That's another thing. All 32 teams, they look at it all differently, and look how Bud hired Munchak. Called him in there. Just hired him on the spot. No interview, really. No real interview. It's the coaching stuff is really crazy. Like I said, everyone loved Wisenhunt. They hated Malarkey. One guy was one of the worst losers of all time. Another guy had 2 winning seasons.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, I think we should wrap it up so Jamal can get back to work, to his real job.
That's true.
But I've enjoyed this podcast despite our negativity. I think we try and keep it realistic and give fans as much of our true opinions as we can. So we'll see how it goes. If the Titans win against the Chiefs, then we'll certainly have a really interesting show to talk about. And at that point, everybody says anything can happen, but seriously, at that point, you're 2 wins away from the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
That is a success by. Paul Kaharski already had I can't remember if he wrote an article or just tweeted out that basically that you may not like hearing this, but the Titans 2017 season is a success.
Yep.
I think you could argue against that, but on the outside, you would say, yeah, it's a success. So,
2 years ago,
we'll see how it works.
You know who 2 years ago was the biggest long shot to win the Super Bowl when the playoffs started? The Broncos.
And I'd have to say Baltimore, the year they won, was probably the biggest long shot because they barely made the playoffs.
No, yeah, but the Broncos, I think you probably forget how bad their offense was.
Yeah, that's probably true.
They had 11 straight 3-and-outs in the AFC title game and 13 straight 3-and-outs in the Super Bowl. That's how bad they were.
Man,
13 straight 3-and-outs in the Super Bowl. I do not remember that.
I might have the AFC title game and the Super Bowl back. If you remember, they were running the ball on 3rd and long just to punt.
That was Manning's last year, right?
Yeah, that was when Manning was completely shot. That offense was so bad. It's unreal. They won the Super Bowl.
All right, that's gonna wrap it up. First ever draft show. We will see what type of episode next week ends up being. Episode 155. Maybe it's another playoff preview, or maybe it's a season wrap-up. And you can find us online in all sorts of places. The main spot is titansreport.com. You can also find us on Facebook. That's just going to be facebook.com/titansreport. You can find us on Twitter @titansreport. And, of course, we're on multiple podcast services, iTunes, Stitcher, anywhere you can find podcasts, we're on there. Go ahead and leave us a review on iTunes if you can. And we appreciate all of your support. Jamal, Scotty, it's been another fun season of the podcast. And we'll see how long it continues this year. So you all have a great week. And we'll talk to you all again very soon.